Men don't love in pieces. They fall in love when something inside them finally lines up. Until that moment arrives, their affection stays experimental, temporary, and easy to reverse. A man can feel attraction, interest, even emotional pull, yet still remain internally uncommitted. For him, love isn't proven by intensity, but by inner agreement. When his inner world and outer behavior finally match, love becomes grounded and real. The first alignment happens inside his own mind. A man cannot love deeply while he is split within himself. When his instincts tug one way and his values pull another, his emotions become scattered. He might chase, pull back, then chase again, not because the woman is unclear, but because he is. Love begins when his desire stops trying to run from his own confusion. In that moment, a woman is no longer used to calm his fears or fill empty spaces. She becomes someone he can approach without losing himself. His affection shifts from reactive to deliberate. That is when love gains weight and consistency. The second alignment happens beneath the surface. Every man carries an inner picture of the feminine, shaped by memories, longing, and old emotions he hasn't fully processed. This inner picture is not logical or fully conscious. It is symbolic. When a woman matches this inner image, something ancient wakes up. She feels familiar in a way he cannot explain. He may struggle to say why her presence matters more than simply feeling good. This isn't about perfection or obedience. It is about recognition. It is about a woman who reflects something inside him and responds with depth, not just excitement. When this recognition happens, his attachment stops being casual and becomes meaningful. He isn't chasing stimulation anymore. He is finding purpose. The third alignment is polarity. Love needs healthy tension to stay alive. When emotional boundaries blur, polarity fades. Too much availability, emotional spilling, or merging too quickly can drain desire. A man loves more fully when closeness doesn't erase difference. When a woman stands in her own center, with her own emotional ground, without chasing his approval or absorbing his moods, attraction stays strong on a psychological level. He is pulled toward her, not swallowed. Love expands in the space where two whole people choose each other without abandoning themselves. When these three alignments meet, something irreversible is created. Love stops being a reaction and becomes a chosen commitment. The man is no longer testing or evaluating. He stays not because he should, but because leaving would feel like betraying something inside himself. A man's love becomes steady only when his desire is anchored in alignment, not in fear, validation, or insecurity. This alignment forms inside him long before it shows up in a relationship. Many men mistake intensity for love. But intensity often comes from inner conflict. When a man is split inside, his attraction becomes reactive. He is pulled in not by choice, but by unresolved parts of himself seeking relief. In this place, desire is unstable. It spikes and crashes, idealizes, then rejects, moves forward, then disappears. What looks like passion is often the mind trying to manage fear, emptiness, or old wounds. Internal alignment means his instincts, values, identity, and emotions are no longer fighting. Without that alignment, a woman becomes the regulator of his inner world. She becomes reassurance, escape, distraction, or a place to hide from himself. When she is warm, he feels lifted. When she pulls back, he feels shaken. His attachment rises and falls because it's driven by dependency, not by choice. Love cannot stabilize under those conditions because she is holding what he has not yet built inside himself. Fear of loss is one of the clearest signs that alignment hasn't happened. When a man is motivated by fear, he isn't seeing her as a person, but as something that protects him from discomfort. He may cling, overgive, or break his boundaries just to feel close. Or he might withdraw, test, or numb himself to avoid being hurt first. Both behaviors come from the same unstable inner center. Love based on fear is conditional. It lasts only while the fear is quiet. The moment uncertainty returns, the bond weakens. External validation works the same way. When a man depends on a woman to prove his worth or desirability, attraction becomes an exchange. He may feel strongly drawn to her at first, especially if she validates him, but that attraction is fragile. Over time, he needs more reassurance. She feels pressure to maintain his self-image. Any sign of disappointment or lowered admiration hits him as a threat to identity, not a normal relational moment. It creates emotional swings. Love cannot deepen when the relationship is holding up his entire sense of self. Internal alignment turns desire into something steady. When a man knows who he is, what he stands for, and where he's heading, the nature of his attraction changes. He doesn't look for a woman to complete him or rescue him from emptiness. Instead, desire comes from fullness, not from lack. He is drawn to her because she fits into a life that already has structure. His interest becomes consistent. His presence becomes dependable. His emotions become safe for her to trust. Alignment also changes how he handles uncertainty. When he's aligned, uncertainty doesn't send him into panic or withdrawal. He can handle ambiguity without shutting down or running away. This is what allows love to mature. Relationships naturally include distance, misunderstandings, and emotional ups and downs. A fragmented man sees these moments as threats. An aligned man sees them as part of reality because his identity stays stable. Love doesn't collapse at discomfort. It grows through it. Another part of alignment is integrating desire with self-control. When these are split, he swings between impulsive pursuit and sudden detachment. He may chase passionately, then feel overwhelmed and vanish, or hold everything in until it explodes. Alignment lets desire move freely without taking over. Love becomes intentional, not compulsive. He chooses closeness instead of being pulled by it. When a man is aligned, he no longer idealizes a woman unrealistically. Idealization is projection, not connection. It places impossible hopes on her and guarantees disappointment. Alignment grounds his perception. He sees her strengths without exaggeration and her flaws without resentment. This isn't cold, it's respectful. Love strengthens when it's based on reality, not fantasy. Internal alignment also means emotional ownership. He takes responsibility for how he feels instead of shifting it onto the relationship. When he feels insecure, he reflects instead of demanding reassurance. When he feels desire, he expresses it without letting it control him. This creates emotional safety around him. A woman feels she is with someone steady, not someone she must manage. Safety here is not passivity, it is consistency. Love stabilizes when staying supports his inner order, not when leaving soothes anxiety. An aligned man stays because the relationship fits who he is. His commitment comes from congruence, not fear. That is why this kind of love feels calm, deep, and lasting. It doesn't need constant reassurance or dramatic highs. Without alignment, a man may say he loves, act like he loves, even believe he loves, yet his behavior will reveal instability. With alignment, love becomes part of his structure. It is not something he stumbles into or abandons easily. It becomes an extension of his identity, not a reaction to his wounds. Love deepens when a woman resonates with the inner image he carries, not just when she checks boxes. This process does not follow logic. A man may think he knows exactly what he wants, listing traits and values, but those lists rarely determine the bond that lasts. What actually shapes lasting love is the inner image created through early experience. Safety, pain, admiration, longing, disappointment, memory. This image isn't a fantasy but an imprint. When a woman aligns with it, love shifts from simple attraction to something meaningful. This inner image is formed long before conscious romantic choice exists. Early experiences with caregivers, especially the first female presence, leave emotional traces. These traces are not remembered as moments but as feelings, warmth, distance, unpredictability, acceptance, rejection. Over time, these feelings form an internal figure representing what feminine energy emotionally means. This figure becomes the lens through which he experiences women. He does not actively search for this image. The recognition happens on its own. When a woman carries qualities that resonate with this inner figure, the response is immediate and deep, even if he can't explain why. He may feel drawn to her without fully understanding why, or sense that being near her carries a kind of significance he cannot explain. This connection does not depend on perfection or conformity. Often, it emerges through complexity rather than ease. The unconscious mind does not respond to politeness or effort. It responds to symbolic familiarity. She may challenge him, unsettle him, or stir feelings he did not expect, yet remain deeply compelling. This is because the psyche recognizes something archetypal rather than convenient. When this happens, attraction shifts from surface-level desire to genuine internal involvement. He is no longer simply interested in how she looks or behaves, but in what her presence awakens inside him. Many relationships never reach this depth because they function only on preference. Preference is conscious, flexible, and negotiable. A man may prefer kindness, intelligence, beauty, or compatibility. A woman may meet these standards perfectly, yet if she does not stir the unconscious image, his attachment stays limited. He may enjoy her company, respect her, and even commit from logic or comfort, but something essential is missing. Over time, this absence appears as restlessness, distraction, or emotional distance. He may feel inexplicably unsatisfied, even when he has what he thought he wanted. When a woman resonates with the unconscious image, love becomes symbolic rather than situational. She is no longer interchangeable. The bond deepens because it connects with layers of the psyche that are not easily replaced. This is why such love often feels destined or inevitable. Even in imperfect circumstances, he is not just choosing her, he is discovering something within himself. Through her, she becomes a mirror not of his ego, but of his inner emotional world. This is often mistaken for projection, but it is subtler. Projection is when a man attributes qualities to a woman that are not there. Resonance occurs when real qualities in the woman align with symbolic expectations in the psyche. The difference is crucial. Projection collapses under reality, resonance grows stronger through it. When a man projects, disillusionment is inevitable. When he resonates, intimacy deepens as he learns more about her. Love stabilizes not because of illusion, but because reality matches the symbolic pattern. A woman does not create this resonance through trying or strategy. It arises naturally from who she is and how she inhabits herself. The unconscious responds to authenticity, not performance. Subtle traits, emotional presence, calmness, self-possession, warmth, firmness, can trigger the inner image far more powerfully than overt attempts to impress. When a woman is grounded, she carries an emotional gravity the psyche notices. This recognition is not conscious admiration, it is a felt sense of meaning. When resonance occurs, his behavior shifts. Curiosity deepens rather than fades. He seeks understanding instead of control. He becomes attentive without anxiety. His investment grows steadily rather than spiking and collapsing. This is because the bond is fueled by meaning, not novelty or validation. Meaning unfolds gradually, making the relationship a space for internal exploration rather than mere gratification. This type of love also encourages growth because the unconscious image carries unresolved material. Resonance can be seductive and challenging. She may evoke vulnerability, responsibility, or emotional depth he has avoided. This strengthens love when he engages fully. Love touching the unconscious is transformative. It demands integration rather than consumption. He is no longer just receiving, he is being shaped. Crucially, this resonance cannot survive dependency. If she abandons her center to maintain the bond, polarity collapses and the symbolic charge fades. The unconscious responds to tension between distinct centers, not to fusion. When she remains self-contained, she continues to reflect the qualities that first activated the inner image, preserving depth. Love stays alive because it is continually rediscovered rather than fully possessed. When a man loves at this level, separation feels different. Loss is not just loneliness, but the disappearance of a meaningful inner dialogue. He is not afraid to be alone. He is aware of what would be missing. This awareness anchors commitment without coercion. He stays not from need, but because the relationship carries psychological weight. The love from unconscious resonance carries quiet seriousness. It is not loud, performative, or dramatic. It feels like gravity. He may not speak often of it, but it guides his choices. He protects it not from insecurity, but from recognition. Something rare has happened. She has entered not just his life, but his inner world. Lasting love emerges when emotional polarity is preserved rather than dissolved by dependency or overexposure. Polarity is not distance or coldness, nor a tactic to manipulate desire. It is a state in which two individuals remain distinct centers while choosing connection. When polarity exists, attraction thrives because there is movement between two forces rather than collapse into sameness. Love is sustained by dynamic tension, not constant closeness. When that tension vanishes, desire weakens, not because affection disappears, but because the psychological conditions for vitality have eroded. Emotional polarity starts with self-containment. A man remains engaged when a woman experiences her emotions without offloading them compulsively. When every feeling is immediately externalized or explained, the emotional field becomes saturated. There is no space for curiosity or desire. Overexposure does not create intimacy. It creates familiarity without depth. The psyche needs space to move and imagine. When everything is instantly accessible, the unconscious disconnects. Dependency is the main way polarity collapses. Emotional dependency occurs when one partner unconsciously expects the other to regulate, validate, or stabilize their sense of self. Then desire weakens because he is drawn into a caretaker role. Attraction requires freedom to approach, not pressure to sustain. This often starts subtly. Openness gradually becomes emotional flooding. Closeness slowly turns into fusion. He may initially feel needed, even important, but over time that importance becomes a burden. Desire fades not because he doesn't care, but because the relationship no longer allows him to experience her as a separate, self-sustaining presence. Polarity erodes when a couple becomes the emotional center for both. Overexposure also harms desire, though it is often mistaken for honesty. Radical transparency without discernment removes mystery. Mystery is not secrecy or manipulation. It is the natural outcome of someone with an inner life that is not constantly broadcasted. When a woman narrates every thought, doubt, and emotion in real time, she removes the psychological distance needed for attraction to regenerate. Desire grows through discovery, not constant revelation. Polarity also depends on rhythm. Relationships without rhythm stagnate. Rhythm requires alternation between closeness and space, engagement and withdrawal, expression and silence. Constant closeness loses its charge. Polarity creates the feeling of being drawn toward, not surrounded by. A woman who preserves polarity does not hold back artificially. She stays anchored in her own center. She does not abandon her inner world to maintain connection. Her emotions are felt, processed, and integrated before being shared. This containment creates density, not distance. Her words carry weight, her emotions feel intentional, not reactive. The man experiences her as someone to move toward, not imposed upon. Polarity also protects desire from predictability. Predictability in values and trust is essential, but constant emotional predictability is corrosive. When he knows exactly what to expect, the unconscious disconnects. Vitality requires some uncertainty. This does not mean instability, but that she remains a living subject rather than a fully known object. With polarity, conflict does not destroy attraction, it can intensify it. Disagreement between centered individuals creates friction without collapse. Each person holds their position without anxiety or aggression. He experiences conflict as interaction between intact selves, maintaining respect that fuels desire. When respect fades, attraction fades too. Another key part of polarity is emotional sovereignty, which is a woman's ability to stay grounded inside while feeling her full range of emotions, without leaning on the relationship to regulate them. Loneliness, longing, disappointment, desire, uncertainty, and even moments of insecurity are natural in any close connection. Emotional sovereignty doesn't ignore these feelings, nor does it push them away. Instead, it allows them to be felt, understood, and processed internally before they are expressed outwardly. This inner work keeps psychological balance intact. The woman does not immediately rush to the man to be comforted, reassured, or stabilized every time she feels discomfort. As a result, her emotional world stays rich instead of spilling out in ways that weigh down the connection. This independence is often mistaken for emotional distance or coldness, but it is actually the opposite. Emotional sovereignty builds a grounded presence. A woman who is emotionally sovereign stays fully available, open and warm, yet she does not crumble internally when the relationship has ups and downs. Her mood, sense of self, and feeling of worth do not rely on the man's immediate reactions because she is not constantly seeking validation. Her presence feels expansive rather than needy. The man experiences her as someone solidly in herself, not someone who requires constant emotional management. When a woman can sit with longing without panic, with desire without rush, and with disappointment without blame, she keeps polarity alive on a psychological level. Polarity needs two separate centers of gravity. Emotional dependence erases one of them. When a woman insists on immediate resolution for every emotional state, she unconsciously makes the man the regulator of her inner world. Over time, this creates tension. Even a loving and devoted man starts to feel like he must maintain her emotional balance rather than being present out of desire. This shift is subtle but decisive. Desire thrives on choice. It fades under obligation. Emotional sovereignty lets choice stay visible. A man is drawn to a woman when he feels she is choosing him freely, not clinging out of fear or emptiness. Choice brings dignity. It shows that the relationship adds to life, rather than filling a void. When a man feels chosen, attraction comes naturally, without pressure. He leans in because he wants to, not because he has to. This willingness strengthens emotional investment. Love grows when freedom is preserved. On the other hand, when need takes over, polarity collapses. Need communicates urgency and dependence, even without words. The man might stay physically present, supportive, loyal even, but inside, he begins to pull back. This is not cruelty or indifference. It is a natural response to pressure. When the relationship becomes the main source of emotional regulation, his instinct is to create inner space, even if he doesn't act on it openly. Emotional closeness then feels heavy instead of energizing. Emotional sovereignty also shapes how conflict and vulnerability are handled. A sovereign woman can express her feelings without making them demands. She can show pain without insisting on immediate fixes and show desire without needing instant fulfillment. This way of expressing keeps respect and polarity intact. The man stays engaged because he doesn't feel cornered or responsible for fixing her. He responds out of choice rather than defensiveness. This dynamic builds trust and keeps attraction alive over time. Emotional sovereignty creates consistency. The man experiences the woman as emotionally stable, not unpredictable. Her reactions are measured, her presence steady, her absence not used as punishment. This steadiness does not kill passion, it grounds it. Passion rooted in sovereignty does not burn out quickly because it is not fed by fear or anxiety. It lasts because it comes from mutual desire between two whole people. Emotional sovereignty also keeps the delicate balance between closeness and independence. It allows intimacy to grow without losing individuality. The woman stays emotionally open without becoming dependent. The man stays committed without feeling swallowed. In this balance, polarity remains alive. Desire stays active, and love keeps moving instead of getting stuck in obligation or emotional exhaustion. Polarity also prevents erotic energy from turning into emotional management. When a relationship is dominated by reassurance, regulation, and processing, eroticism fades. Erotic energy needs vitality, not constant explanations. It comes from being fully present, confident, and emotionally deep, not flattened into words alone. A woman living fully in her body and inner life carries energy that cannot be replicated by conversation. The man responds instinctively to this energy. It reminds him that connection is lived experience, not just emotional labor. When polarity fades, love can turn into friendship or obligation. The man may stay loyal, loving, and responsible, yet something vital is missing. Desire dulls, attention drifts, and the connection feels heavy rather than alive. This is not moral failure. It is a natural psychological outcome. Love needs structure, and polarity is part of that structure. Preserving polarity does not mean playing roles or holding back affection. It means honoring the psychological rules of attraction. Two people must meet as whole beings, not merge into one emotional system. When each maintains their own center, love has space to grow, evolve, and deepen. The man stays committed not because he is trapped, but because the relationship continues to draw him forward. Desire lasts when it is continuously reignited by difference, depth, and the quiet tension between two sovereign selves. A man's love is not fueled by intensity, persuasion, or emotional effort. It stabilizes when his inner world is in order, when desire is not driven by fear or validation, and when he can choose freely instead of clinging. Love deepens when a woman resonates with the symbolic image in his unconscious, not by acting a role, but by embodying her own emotional gravity and authenticity. Love endures only when polarity is maintained, when two complete individuals remain distinct, self-contained, and sovereign while choosing connection. When these forces align, love stops being reactive or fragile. It becomes grounded, meaningful, and strong. The man does not stay out of fear or dependence. He stays because the relationship reflects his inner stability, engages his deepest layers, and keeps drawing him forward instead of shutting him down.